In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. It gives me great pleasure to be able to introduce Professor Courtenay Bartholomew. He's an emeritus professor of medicine at the University of the West Indies in Trinidad. He received his medical degree in Ireland at University College Dublin, and that's why he looks so Irish. He was part of an international team involved in the discovery of the AIDS virus in the early 1980s, and since that time has devoted much of his professional life to researching AIDS. But also during this same period of time, he fell in love with Our Lady and her plan on how it is intertwined throughout the centuries. He's also the ambassador at large for the Foundation of the Sorrowful and Immaculate Heart of Mary. He has met with kings and princes, presidents and prime ministers, papal nuncios, cardinals and bishops. This past month at the Apostolic Palace in the Vatican, he presented his new book, The Last Help Before the End of Time, which is available out there. He presented it to the personal secretary of Pope Benedict XVI, and then watched that secretary walk the book into the Pope's office to personally deliver it. Most of the time when he goes places, he's flown places and stays in the best hotels and eats the best dinners. We invited him up here and gave him directions and stuck him in our basement. However, his greatest honor occurred on September 8, 2006, in the Lourdes Grotto in France. It was just after midnight on that birthday of Our Lady. He had just toasted Our Lady with a small glass of champagne in the grotto, as he has done every year for many years at midnight, when he found himself in quite a predicament. He had waited around too long after that late evening mass, and the gate at the grotto had been locked, leaving him inside. And the fence was too high for him to climb out. That is, unless he took off his pants. For his pants were too tight to lift his leg up over the picket fence. So he was faced with the gut-wrenching decision of whether to stay all night locked in the grotto, or to take off his pants and try to climb over the fence, risking being impaled on the picket fence post and being found in that position in the morning. And the headlines of the Paris paper reading, "World-renowned Marian scholar and AIDS researcher found dead in the Lourdes Grotto with no pants." But then, as she always does, Our Lady came to his aid. She sent two drunken angels outside the fence. And Courtenay was able to persuade them, and with their help, they helped reaching through the picket fence to lift him over the fence with his pants on. Thank God for drunken angels. Ladies and gentlemen, Professor Courtenay Bartholomew.
Thank you, Michael. If there were drunken angels, they must have been Irish. Pleasure to be here on this very important day. Now, the Son of God became man. But there were those high priests and Pharisees who did not believe. Like manner, there are certain high priests of today who do not believe that his mother is appearing in Emmitsburg, appropriately in the land named after her, Maryland. And so nothing has changed over 2,000 years. Like son, like mother. But blessed are those who do not see and who believe. And so you're all blessed, chosen, and invited to be Her Majesty's ambassadors and to defend her and her chosen visionary, and this, the center of her Immaculate Heart. Science has already proven that Joanna is truly in a state of ecstasy during the apparition. And I was a witness at one of those scientific examinations. You cannot fake ecstasy. And science found that there was no doubt that she was in ecstasy outside of the swirl environment during the alleged apparitions. There can be no conflict between science and religion, as they both deal with truth. And I'm sure that in the Father's good time, the truth will be revealed and the victory will be ours. Today is a very special day, as I said, a very special feast day. And I've chosen to make a slide presentation of what I believe Our Lady has trained me into, how she was heralded in the Old Testament through a series of photographs upon which there were mystical impositions. These are happening to many people these days. As the great St. Augustine once said, the New Testament lies hidden in the Old, and the Old is revealed in the New. This is the first time that I am showing these slides of my privileges. I said they were my training program, as it were, when I tried to research the Mother of God. I think it's proper to say that the history of Mary, the salvation history, that is, began with the fall of Satan. When Satan introduced the sin of pride, then disobedience, and ambition in God's paradise. And with the help of Michael, the great archangel, and his friends, 1/3 of the heavenly cohort of angels were thrust down to earth. And the fall of Satan is described by Jesus himself in the New Testament when he said, I saw Satan fall like lightning from heaven. And then in the fullness of time, God created Adam and Eve and placed them in the Garden of Eden. But they were seduced by the ancient serpent, and they too disobeyed God through the sin of disobedience and pride. And they were expelled from the garden. It was then that God gave his first promise to mankind in Genesis 3:15. One of the most important verses in the Bible, as far as I am concerned, when he said, because you have done this, I will put enmity between you and the woman, between your seed and her seed, and she will crush your head. But you will strike at her heel meaning all you followers of Mary. You will strike you and I, you and me. But we will survive because we are under the mantle of Mary. You know, God could not have been speaking and referring about the first Eve and the first Adam, because they were already seduced. He was speaking and making a prophecy of a second Adam and a second Eve to come. Now you have heard this afternoon the recitation of the Litany of Our Lady. The praises that we have showered on the Mother of the Word. She who said yes in the fiat. And I want to concentrate in this slide presentation just on cause of her joy. Interestingly, when she appeared to Joanna in Phoenix, she called herself Our Lady of Joy. The flower of Sharon, the lily of the valley, which you find in Song of Songs 2:1, taken in the colorless smoke of aromatical spices in Song of Songs 3:6. The army set in array, Psalm 6:3, which is the battle cry of the Legion of Mary. And last but not least, the pillar of cloud in Sirach 24:4. As you know, she did appear in 1960s in Italy, Montechiari, Courtenay, as the mystical rose. And one of the first miraculous photographs, which was taken from one of the houses in Medjugorje, just at the foot of the hill to the Hudson mountain, was a rose growing at a time when roses do not grow, from the wall of one of the houses to the way to the hill. And the reddening of the rose was reflected on the wall, interpreted by Father Slavko as a sign of Mary, as the mystical rose. And as you know, in Guadalupe, she presented mystical roses to the bishop to prove that she was indeed the Mother of God. Now, with the passage of time, after Adam and Eve and Cain and Abel committed a sin of murder, Cain murdered his brother, man multiplied into millions and millions and millions in Eden. And the time had come after the whole of mankind was worshipping false idols and false gods, that God chose a good man called Abraham, a Hebrew, with his wife Sarah, and he chose him to be the one to lead the people to worship him, Yahweh, as the one true God. And he made a covenant with Abraham. This picture depicts that important scene when 400 years later, or 400 years when the Hebrews were kept in slavery by the Egyptians, with Moses as the mediator sent by God, and after the 10th plague, the Pharaoh eventually relented and freed the Hebrews from bondage, of 400-year bondage. And that picture depicts them leaving with all their possessions and all their sheep and goats, etc., etc., on their way to the land that God had promised them, Palestine. But in that procession, it said in the Bible that the Lord preceded them in the daytime by means of a pillar of cloud to show them the way, and at night by a pillar of fire to give them light. However, Pharaoh eventually changed his mind and sent his army after the Hebrews with the intention of killing them and bring them back. But the pillar of cloud, which preceded the procession, changed position, and the pillar of fire, indeed, changed position from the front to the back of that procession of Hebrews, and held, as you know, the Egyptian chariots at bay. Next slide. This again is a depiction of the chariots being held at bay while Moses stretched forth his hand with the rod, and the Red Sea parted, and the Hebrews made their way to the desert. But when they had all gone through the parted sea, Pharaoh and his chariots pursued them, but the sea went back into its original position, and all the chariots were drowned. The Hebrews were saved by Yahweh, the pillar of cloud by day and the pillar of fire by night. Eventually, in the trek through the desert of the Sinai, God called Moses to the mountain, and he appeared to him in a theophany in a cloud. The cloud is of great spiritual and sacred significance in the Bible. God appeared to Moses in a cloud, and in the New Testament, at the Ascension, Jesus was surrounded by a cloud, and in the Transfiguration, he was also surrounded by a cloud. The cloud was a symbol of great sanctity, holiness. God also prescribed for Moses the measurements of the ark, an ark which was to house the two tables of the law which God had printed to Moses in his own hand, the 10 Commandments. It was called the Ark of the Covenant. Moses was the mediator of the old covenant between God and his people. That old covenant was just a herald of the new, the living Ark of the Covenant, of the new covenant yet to come. And just as how the ancient Ark of the Covenant was covered by, all covered with gold, the new living Ark of the the Covenant is also the house of gold. And as you know, she appears in Venture Glory on the feast days, all dressed in gold, because she is, as the litany of Loreto says, the house of gold. And just as how the ancient Ark of the Covenant contained the two tablets of law, the Ten Commandments. When she said yes to the invitation of Gabriel to the Mother of the Word, she contained within her womb not the Ten Commandments, but the lawgiver himself. And just as how the ancient ark was made of an incorruptible acacia wood, so was she, the new living ark of the new covenant, incorruptible, and never experienced the corruption of the grave. And just as how in time, the ancient ark housed a vessel containing some of the miraculous manna which fell the Israelites on their journey to the promised land, Hebrews in fact. But yet they died. When she said yes to the invitation of Gabriel to be the Mother of God, she contained herself. She contained within her womb the true bread of life, who gives us everlasting life. She is indeed one of the most important titles, the Ark of the Covenant. Now, my first mystical lesson on what the meaning of Ark of the Covenant was when I went to Egypt in search of the church in Zaytun, where it is well known that she had prepared to the Indians of Muslims and Christians and Orthodox people there in the 1960s, I believe. And on my last day there, on Saturday, I was in search of a church, a Catholic church, go to Mass in the evening at 6 p.m. When I saw in the papers the church called the Church of the Annunciation, and I presumed that church was a Roman Catholic church. So there I was, and I went to that church, and as I walked in, I saw behind the altar this traditional painting of Mary at the time of the Annunciation. And I did indeed think that this was a Catholic church, but it was not. It was an Armenian Orthodox church, but in communion with God. And at the end of the Mass, as I was leaving, I found an alcove at the side of the entrance. And there in that alcove was a depiction of the grotto of Our Lady of Emmitsburg in this Armenian church. I was stunned by it in a way, and I took a photograph. And then seconds later, I went closer to take another photograph. And all of a sudden, this cloud appeared. And I thought it was an artifact. And I went to London the following day, and I filmed it out. And I had lunch with Father Richard Foley, a Jesuit theologian. And I showed him this, and he said to me, "My dear Courtenay, this is Exodus 33:9. I was not an expert in the Old Testament at that time. And Exodus 33:9 says, "As Moses entered the tent, the pillar of cloud would come down and stand at its entrance while the Lord spoke to Moses." He said, this is a depiction of the pillar of cloud in front of the tent contained in the Ark of the Covenant. I said, okay, perhaps I was still skeptical. And then I went the following year to Israel. I went from Trinidad to Israel and spent just 6 hours there. To return home, and I tell you, I had a pretty rough time by the immigration officers there. Wanted to know how could I come all the way from Trinidad to spend only 6 hours in Israel. And they gave me a pretty rough grilling to see whether I was a terrorist or not. And I was in search of a church called the Basilica of the Ark of the Covenant, which was built on the site where the ancient Ark of the Covenant stayed for 80 years. Prior to going to Israel, I got in touch with the nuns, the sisters of St. Joseph the Worker, to tell them that I wished to meet them, and they indeed met me in the airport. Next. This is the Basilica of Mary, the Ark of the Covenant at Kiryat Yearim, where the Ark did remain for 80 years. And you can see on the steeple here a statue in concrete. And here it is, the ancient Ark of the Covenant, and on top, an image of Mary with a child Jesus, but holding the Eucharist in his hand. Very significant for the messages of Emmitsburg. The child with the Eucharist in his hand, and the association of Mary, the new and living Ark of the Covenant, with the old Ark of the Covenant. And I became very excited. Next slide. And here's one of the nice picture of me in front of this Ark of the Covenant, ancient and new. And I took the next picture, and there the pillar of cloud appeared in front of the Ark of the Covenant. And I said, no, this is still an error. This must be an artifact. And then I went to Medjugorje. I think the year was 1986. And you know, this is traditional painting of Our Lady of Medjugorje. And as she appeared, as you will remember, on a cloud. Her feet were covered by a cloud. This ark. And here is another miraculous imposition of a pillar, of a cloud in the shape of a pillar in front. But as such of Mary, then I said to myself, no, this is not an error. Something is happening here. I'm being called to research on this. And in Medjugorje, here I am having tea with Maria Pavlovich, with whom I still have a very great friendship. There's Wayne Weibel and the Archbishop of New Orleans, Archbishop Frederick Maryland. The following year, I think it was, I was invited by Father Slavko to be one of the very few people who are asked to be in the choir loft during the operations at 5:48 p.m. in the afternoon. And the children, 5 of them, live in front of the wall where there is the painting of Our Lady of Medjugorje. It's there that Our Lady appears. And I'm behind here, nervous, I can tell you. And I took a photograph of the event when she appeared. Next slide, please. And there you can see the pillar of cloud appear in the photograph. I thought I had learned enough by that time. I thought it would end there. It didn't end there. The pillar of cloud in front of Mary, the Ark of the Covenant. And I went on researching the Old Testament more and more and more at the expense of my scientific obligations. And then I went to Garabandal, Spain. Here I am with Conchita Gonzalez, the main visionary in Garabandal, and she had a dinner party for me and her friends. Oh, this was not meant to advertise Pepsi Cola. Advertising Garabandal. I went to the Pines, Los Pinos. The area on the hill where Our Lady appeared, the mountain. And there is a particular tree among the 9 trees where she appeared. And there is a painting of Our Lady as she appeared in Garabandal. And 10 seconds later, I took another photograph. And there you are, covered with clouds in front of the ark. And I said to myself, Lord, what are you asking of me? We all know now what I had. Is that the Lord? As a matter of protocol, therefore, he chose my own homeland, Trinidad and Tobago. And in the Church of the Nativity, the parish priest had asked me to help him build a grotto to simulate the grotto he knows on the grounds of the church. And on the day of the consecration of the pearl of the grotto, I took this picture, I did this with the help of a very famous artisan in Trinidad. And I was very pleased with some of the parishioners. In my next photograph, no, something wrong there. Go back one. Oh, is it? Is it there? Is it? Oh, yes. There it is. If it were dark, you would see much clearer. The pillar of cloud appeared once again, and I said, when will this stop? I have learned my lesson. This, to me, is the most beautiful of all. Our Lady of Fatima statue, the international Courtenay Bartholomew statue, being led and the beautiful cloud, encircling it. This is not my photograph. This belongs to Dr. Joseph Fieder, who sent it to me. I was envious of it. Our Lady seems to prefer him to me, I think. Story of my life, ladies. And there I was off to Venezuela. Now Venezuela is just 1 hour away from my home. Britannia, I heard, was authentic. And everybody talked about the authenticity of the great visionary Maria Esperanza. A great mystic, I can tell you. Great mystic. And this is the area where she appeared in Britannia. And indeed here again is erected a grotto simulating Our Lady of Lourdes grotto. There you are again. In procession at night, the pillar of fire appeared in front of the statue representing Our Lady of Britannia. By that time, I had gotten used to all these shenanigans. And that is when I realized that I had to write a book. And that book turned out to be one of the bestsellers for 101 Foundation. It was called The Scientist Researches Mary the Ark of the Covenant, my first book, which led me to write some other books. Here we are again. Next slide. But the best of all, perhaps, was a slide which shows both the pillar of cloud and the pillar of fire in Britannia at once. And so I flew to Japan. If there's a collection around, so help me to pay for all these trips that I took, I would have been It had been approved by the Bishop Ito of Japan that Our Lady had appeared in Akita, Japan in 1973. And she spoke to the nuns of the Eucharist through a statue. And this is a statue that wept 101 times. And the last weeping was in the Feast of Our Lady of Sorrows, 1973. Then I took a picture of the statue, and there, the pillar of cloud and the fire in front of it. And the saga continued and continued. Back to Medjugorje, because I've been there about 6 times. And what? Are we missing the slide here? Go back. Maybe we're not. What happened? The most interesting of all the mystical expositions I've had took place in Medjugorje this time. And I couldn't understand the significance of it. And the voice, I heard the voice quite clearly at home when I developed the pictures, saying, go to Francis de Sales. I remember that even very well. I went straight to my library, picked out the first book on Francis de Sales, Sermons of Francis de Sales. And by the sermon of the Feast of the Assumption in August of 1602, he started his sermon by this Psalm 3:6. Who is this coming up from the desert, like a column of smoke, laden with myrrh, with frankincense, and with the perfume of every exotic dust? And then who is this coming up from the desert, flowing with delight, leaning upon our lover, our beloved? Psalm 8:5. That gave me the explanation of the pictures that I developed, which I'll show you now, I hope, in the correct order. Now incense with its sweet smelling perfume and high ascending smoke is typical of prayer which rises up to please an offering in God's sight. And an altar of incense was positioned directly in front of the Holy of Holies containing this sacred Ark of the Covenant. Now you'll see the connection. It was a sunny day. A few clouds, night clouds over this area, but the rest of the sky was quite blue. This, as you know, those of you who have been to Medjugorje, is the statue in front of the Church of St. James. And there's a railing, and right here on the railing is the cross, the crucifix, in front of the statue. Here is it enlarged. So I took this picture of Our Lady. It was the Feast of Our Lady of Sorrows. And the next picture was taken 10 seconds later. And there spoke there's like a big column, but the formation of a column started, and the skies became all cloudy. And I took another picture 2 seconds later, and the full column of smoke appeared, leaning right down the arm of the crucified Christ. I didn't know the significance of the pillar or column of smoke until I had gone. Francis says, one of the symbols of Our Lady is a column of smoke. She is like prayer, like incense, like a perfume rising to God. The most beautiful of all the flowers in God's paradise. She's called a column of smoke in both the Orthodox Church and in the Church of Rome. That was my first lesson in the Old Testament, column of smoke. Now, the following year, because I thought that perhaps I was skeptical, I'm a scientist and I cannot afford to have my reputation tarnished by saying that this is so and so and so, and it is not. So the Olympus camera I had a cord, a black cord. And I said to myself, perhaps the cord went in front of the lens, and that's why it appeared as a column of smoke. So I cut the cord off, and I had a bobtail camera. This time I took the picture in Mexico on the hill of Butterville, and the column of smoke this time in horizontally. They were making fun of me. Maybe Maria Esperanza died a few years ago, a mystic of mystics. I met her several times. And here she is in the car coming out, and here is a sort of the column of smoke, like what you call it? Yes. Right, like a guard of honor, as it were. Surrounding this mystical role she was next. As you know, Our Lady appeared in Amsterdam, Holland. And she said that Our Lady, our Lord, and the Father, once to be called the Coronatrix, Mediatrix Navigator. And she came under the title of the Lady of all Nations, or the Mother of all Nations. And these apparitions in Amsterdam have been approved by Bishop Powers and Bishop Punt. This is how she appeared to the visionary Ida Pavement in Amsterdam with Our Lady of all Nations, standing on the globe in front of the cross. I gave a lecture in Trinidad on the whole history of Our Lady of all Nations in Amsterdam. And the parishioners were just about building a new church. And they decided to name the new church the Church of Our Lady of all Nations. And on the day of the consecration of the church, I took a photograph, and there the column of smoke appeared. Again, I built another grotto in the Church of St. John's in Trinidad and Tobago. And when it was all completed, Our Lady, I placed the flowers at her feet. The column of smoke appeared in front of the Ark of the Covenant. But this, I think, was the most significant. I can't remember the year, but I went to Jerusalem to walk, as it were, on Good Friday, the holy way of the cross with the rest of the pilgrims. And I took this photograph at the beginning of the procession, and another photograph sometime later, the thickest of the columns. I couldn't understand, because there was no statue of our Lord there. And then this was so clear. She was most present, the woman of sorrows, when her son, the man of sorrows, was on his way to Calvary. The lesson was taught. The lesson was learned. This is Our Lady of Fatima, who called herself, in October 13th, Our Lady of the Rosary. And today is the great feast of Our Lady of the Rosary. She appeared on a cloud. She appeared
on May the 13th, and this was after Pope Benedict XV, during World War I, had called upon all the bishops and the Catholic faithful to pray to Mary under the title Sorrowful and Immaculate Heart of Mary, to appeal to her Son to put a speedy end to the war. Under the title, I repeat, Sorrowful and Immaculate Heart of Mary. 8 days later, Our Lady, having heard the prayer of Pope Benedict XV, appeared in Fatima on May the 13th on a cloud with a rosary, and later identified herself as Our Lady of Emmitsburg. She wore a star as a hem of her gown. If you read one of the best books on the history of family by Francis Johnson, called The Great Sign, you will see on page 101, next slide, the testimony of Dr. Joseph Garrett, Professor of Natural Sciences, Coimbra University, written in 1970, a month after the apparition. It must have been about 1:30 when there arose, on the precise spot where the children were, a column of smoke, a delicate slender column that went straight up to the 2 meters and then evaporated. The phenomenon lasted for some seconds and was perfectly visible to the eye. It was repeated yet a second and a third time. On these 3 occasions, the slender post stood out distinctly in the dull grey atmosphere. You remember the dull grey atmosphere because of the incense. That is known by very few people. It preceded the apparitions of Our Lady on that October the 13th. The miracle of the sun. We now know the sun is nothing else like all stars, but a huge hydrogen bomb that has been exploding continuously for 5 billion years. But today is October the 7th. Today, an event took place in 1571, which led to this feast day today. It was the great battle of Lepanto, one of the greatest naval battles in the world history at that time. It was on a Sunday. That's why today is extra special. Sunday, October the 7th, as today is. The Christian fleet was outnumbered, vastly outnumbered by the Islamic fleet of today. And Pope Pius V appealed to all Christians to pray the rosary for a miracle of victory. And so did the Christians. This is a depiction in the Atlas of World Affairs by Longman in England, showing a painting of the battle. And it said in that history of the world, it was a spectacle that no survivor of this great sea battle will ever forget. 2 great galleys, one flying the pennant of the crucified Christ, the other a huge flag with verses from the Quran, were being rowed directly at each other. But a gust of wind scattered the Islamic fleet and the 4th hour of the battle, and the Christian fleet scattered them and won the battle and saved the day for Europe. Had this battle been won by Islam, Europe would be Islamic at this time. Because of that victory, Pope Pius V, now Saint Pope Pius V, dedicated that day, October the 7th, the feast of Our Lady, Head of Christians. And this is the statue that is traditionally called Our Lady, Head of Christians. 1 year later, he changed the title and called it, I will come to that later on. But it was in 92, John, when I first met Jana, and Our Lady gave a message during her apparition day in my presence and that of Father Alpheus and Michael, of course, and others. And she said to Jana that she wished her to accompany me to China because I have important work to do for her in China. My conclusion was decisive, but Jana was a nut. There's no way I had any plans to go to China. I haven't changed my mind about it. No. Well, in a different way, of course. There was no way I had any plans on not to go to China, even on a small boat. But lo and behold, some 7 months later, John and myself and Michael were invited to join some pilgrim of 700 Blue Army pilgrims carrying the Pilgrim Virgin statue to China. And there we are. Michael was just behind us. We were caught in the fact to use the microphone to give a talk to the pilgrims on our way to Shanghai. And there is the Church of Our Lady, Help for Christians in China. And then here's the statue of Our Lady, Help for Christians, and one of the pilgrims. We all wore blue jackets. Touching the statue of Our Lady, I took this picture of her. 2 seconds later, I took another picture. The feast day was changed from Our Lady Help for Christians the following year to the Feast of Our Lady of Victories. Now there's a church in Paris, long forgotten for its history, in the Place de Victoire, called the Church of Our Lady of All Nations. A church that I go to every year to pay homage there. Don Bosco also went there to pray. St. Therese of Lisieux went there to pray. And this is the statue of Our Lady Help for Christians, Our Lady of Victories. In the church, you can see the column there, the child, and the globe. And there, talking about smoking in a bed. I'm talking about the Lady of Sorrows. I'm talking about the sorrowful in the Immaculate Heart of Mary. No woman has suffered as much as this woman has. As I have said so many times in so many lectures, if there were 1,000 of you mothers here standing at the feet of 1,000 of your sons crucified, the sum total of your anguish could never approximate the pain and the sorrow of that woman on that hill on that Friday. That some woman, that some people call good. The woman of sorrows receiving a dead son. This is more appropriate. The 7 sorrows. Stabbed her heart as prophesied by Simeon. And in that basilica in Jerusalem, the Holy Basilica, there is a statue where it is said that Christ was crucified. And in Trinidad, I verified the statue of Our Lady of Lourdes, which was bleeding, and I proved that this was human blood. Our Lady of Sorrows. Finally, she appeared last in the saga of Fatima. Not in Fatima, but in Spain to Sister Lucia. Her last apparition was here, where she stood under the cross. She didn't have a rosary in her hand, but she had a heart pierced with thorn. This is the ultimate statue of Fatima. This is the ultimate message of Fatima. The sorrowful and Immaculate Heart. The first statue was the Immaculate Heart. The ultimate statue depicted the sorrowful and Immaculate Heart of Mary. There it is. I think we know who this lady is. She was here a few minutes ago. She said a main event, and this was, well, it wasn't actually. She said, what commenced in Fatima with my 3 little children will continue now and come to fruition here at the center of my Immaculate Heart in May 2000. But the day after I launched my book, The Last Half of It, before the end of time, in which I stressed that the invocation to save the world from a World War III is sorrowful before Immaculate. Sorrowful in the Immaculate Heart of Mary, pray for us. That's the message of Fatima. She appeared the following night at Jerusalem and said, little children, praise be Jesus. Little ones, it is just as my son, me and myself, has spoken to you about my heart. It is first sorrowful. It is in this sorrow that I have shared quietly with my son all my life. This is true. It is the sorrowful and Immaculate Heart of Mary. The time will come when all will know this to be true, just as it has been prophesied. As you already know, you and my son certainly will lead many to my sorrowful and many to my Immaculate Heart of Mary. I'm here to continue that. Lead you all to the sorrowful and Immaculate Heart of Mary. God the Father said, as you know, recently in August last year, there is not so august a princess, more pure and elevated, even higher than Esther, to the level of empress. As she desires and as she implores on your behalf for our salvation, so do we listen and are moved. The star. She appeared the star because she was the New Testament Esther. Esther in the Old Testament saved her Jewish people from annihilation. This is the new Esther. Esther of the New Testament who will save her people, meaning not only the Hebrews. Esther was Jewish, but all the people, because she's the mother of all nations, from annihilation, if we do as she says. Persia's president has called for the annihilation of Israel, Mahmoud Ahmadinejad, and he also denies the existence of the Holocaust. It was Haman, the prime minister at that time in Persia, who called for the annihilation of the Jews. Now, this president or prime minister of Iraq is calling for the annihilation of the Jews. Iraq, right next to Persia. Persia, in 1937, became Iran. And so you see, history is repeating itself. Next slide. He wants now to enrich uranium so that he will have the hydrogen bomb. Next slide, please. But more powerful than the hydrogen bomb is a rosary and devotion to the sorrowful and Immaculate Heart of Mary. Finally, next slide, please. This statue here, which John and Michael bought in Fatima, was placed outside here and there. They took a picture of it, and there's the column of smoke in front of it, in front of the Ark of the Covenant. True event. On my way to the pines in Galabandal, at the foot of the hill, for those who have been there, you see a date here, June 18, 1961. That's when the apparition started. At the foot of the hill is a plaque, a ceramic plaque of Michael the Archangel defeating the fallen angel Satan. And you can see Satan's wings reaching up to here. I went forward, just 10 seconds, to get a larger print, and here Satan completely obliterated. All you can see is Michael. It wasn't a pillar of cloud. To me, my interpretation of that is the victory of light over darkness. But that victory will soon come, and will be followed by, or preceded by, the Eucharistic reign of the child Jesus. You have seen the child Jesus in the steeple in Kiryat Yerim. She is the Queen of Peace. World War I ended on November the 11th, 1971. The feast day of the St. Martin of Tours was one of her saints, who was the same patron saint of Sonia. World War II ended on August 15th, the feast of the Assumption of the Blessed Virgin Mary. Communism collapsed in Russia on August 22nd, 1992, in the feast of the Queenship of Mary. Coincidence? Finally, next slide. Last month on September the 15th, I went to Medjugorje for the Feast of Our Lady of Sorrows, preceded by the Feast of the Exaltation of the Cross, and I placed 7 roses at her feet. Last night at Jana's home, something that's private, Our Lady appeared and paid me 104 times back for the gesture I gave last month in Medjugorje. The world will be saved from complete annihilation only if we pray to Mary under the title Sorrowful and Immaculate Heart of Mary. And we call upon Pope Benedict the 16th to walk in the footsteps of Pope Benedict the 15th, who called for the bishops to pray to Mary under the title Sorrowful and Immaculate Heart of Mary, to follow his predecessor, Pope Benedict XVI, and consecrate the world not to the Immaculate Heart only, but to the sorrowful and Immaculate Heart of Mary. Thank you very much, Mr.
Thank you very much, everyone, for your attending. Thank Courtney for being here. We have got to dismantle everything in a hurry. Those people